Dylan, appreciate you joining me for the Christian Post here. There's a lot to chat about. You have an incredible ministry, Celebrity Evangelist, and you are a celebrity evangelist. You travel around. You have spoken to over 2,000 celebrities, people in the entertainment industry, some of the biggest names, and you haven't just spoken to them, you've shared the gospel message with them. I want to start, and this is, maybe it's a loaded question, I don't know, but looking at the fact that you have talked to so many people, so many performers, actors, singers, what is the biggest lesson you have learned about your faith as a result of evangelizing so many of these celebrities?
Oh my goodness. Well, when I first started my job here as a youth pastor, I remember waking up one morning hearing a bunch of noise outside, and it was a tree in our yard that had fallen down from a storm the night before. And I went out, some of the deacons were there, and I said, I didn't think it stormed that much. And they said it didn't, but come look at this. And the roots, there were giant big roots, but they were all surface level. They were all right on the top. And they said it didn't take much for this to fall. It didn't take too big of a storm to push this over because it wasn't deeply rooted. And I've seen that a lot with the celebrity ministry. I've seen that because, again, I'm talking to people who are like, I was raised in the church, or I was raised with this. But if we aren't deeply rooted as believers, if we don't have a firm understanding of what we believe, why we believe it, it doesn't take much for us to just be pushed over, knocked over, and then it takes a lot more damage control to get us back to where we need to be.
Yeah, well, that is the most important of lessons, I think, because at the end of the day, in order to stay rooted, to play off what you've just said, your roots have to be deep. And that requires, being in the word every day, prayer, a relationship with the Lord, so that you can then go out, and what you're doing is reaching out to other people to help spark a faith relationship between them and God. You've been in the headlines a lot. You've been doing a ton of interviews, obviously, because of Ozzy Osbourne. You interacted with Ozzy Osbourne back in 2023. That interaction, and I think really the question that sparked the interest in what you do for a lot of people was, did Ozzy Osbourne know the Lord, right? People were asking that question after he died. And we don't know the answer to that because we don't know his heart, but we do know that he's heard the gospel because you presented the gospel to him. And so I want to get into more of your ministry, but let's just talk about that story because it's pretty powerful, of you interacting with him and his family and literally delivering a Bible to them and the gospel.
Yes. So again, people, and it's been blowing up on the internet. Was he saved? Was he not saved? I don't know. I can't make that judgment, that assessment about anybody. I do know that Ozzy had some godly people in his life. There was a long time that his next door neighbor was Pat Boone. If you watch the show, The Osbournes, the theme song was Crazy Train, but it was kind of like a slower, modernized Crazy Train. That was sung by his next door neighbor, Pat Boone. I know for a fact Pat had shared the gospel with him. I've seen some rumors circulating that at some point Ozzy made a profession of faith with Pat. I've not heard that come out of Pat's mouth, so I take that with a grain of salt. Here's what we can know as Christians. We did what Jesus told us to do. I can't save anybody. You can't save anybody. The people listening can't save anybody, but we can point people to the one who saves. We can point people to the one and only way to heaven. And the best way to do that is simply by putting Jesus in front of them in some way, shape, or form. I tell my youth students all the time, everybody battles with social anxiety. People worry about what other people think of them. But we have to stop and go, well, what really matters? What somebody thinks of me right now, or where their soul spends eternity? Is it more important for me to keep a social standing with my friend, or give them a tract, invite them to church, or ask them the uncomfortable question, if you were to die today, do you know where you would spend eternity? So with Ozzy, I'd read an interview of him back in 2014. He said he identified more as Christian than anything. He said, I have a lot of different beliefs, a lot of different views. I identify more as a Christian. And then in that same interview with The Guardian, he said, the Bible is written in a language that I can understand. I wish I could read the Bible more. I wish I could understand it more. And so I got him what a lot of people call a New Believer's Bible. It's an NLT, New Living Translation. And I got his name put on the cover. I thought that was something that would really resonate with him. Again, anybody following the ministry now knows that we do that for pretty much everybody. But at the time, we weren't able to. Ozzy was very kind. He took the time to listen to everything that it was just me, everything that I said to him, he was very excited looking at the Bible. He immediately turned to the Gospels, was looking at it, and he even made the comment, I can understand this. And he was very appreciative. And his entire family was sweet. The entire Osbourne family was receptive. 2 weeks later, I saw Jack at another event, and he approached me and said, I don't think you realize how much that Bible meant to my dad. He pitched a fit before he would go up to his room at the event saying, where's my Bible? I want my Bible. And he said, you can imagine the shock on the horror convention people's faces when Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness, is going, where's my Bible?
My Bible. Where's my Bible?
Yes. And you can, and I'm not going to imitate it. You know exactly how Ozzy said that too. And he said, we had to go unlock the entire convention floor, go back down and get it. We brought it back to him. And then he goes, well, there was a letter. There was other stuff. And he said, we went back, and because Ozzy had the next day off, he wanted to look at the material. Ozzy brought up the material at lunch, and he said, that was the topic of our afternoon lunch conversation, was your gospel material. And he said, I don't know about the rest of the family, but he said, I snuck and I read Kelly's letter. I read Mom's letter, my dad's letter, and my letter. He said, I love that it was all individualized. You knew kind of where I stood. You knew where Kelly stood, Mom, Dad, and you. It was the same message, but it was approaching different topics, different things. And he said, that just meant so much. And he said, and just know, he said, my dad got so many gifts through the years, so many he didn't keep because he is not a hoarder. He said, but he said that Bible is on his bedside table, the whole gift material. He said, it went home. And he said, whenever people have been coming over to the house asking, hey, how was the show? He tells Mom, go get my Bible. And he shows them and explains to them, he read this interview where I said this, and look at what I've got here. And it's just a beautiful story. Again, we as Christians, and this isn't just with the celebrity ministry, when we share the gospel with somebody, we don't always see the fruit. We don't always know, well, how far did this go? Was this seed plucked up, so to speak, or was it watered? Was it taken care of? Was it on good soil? And we can't get so focused on, oh, I bet that didn't go anywhere, because then we're going to get in a cynical mindset, and then we're going to just end up stopping to share the gospel. But if it's worth it for one soul, your entire ministry, it's worth it all.
Well, and you mentioned some details there that I think are important for people to understand, because you handwrite most of the time letters to these celebrities. You do research before you go out to understand, as you were mentioning, you watched an interview with Ozzy from 2014 where Ozzy was talking about where he was spiritually. You know where they are as much as you can know before you go and approach them. You give them a Bible with their names on it, right? So it's a personalized Bible with a personalized letter. It's not just you showing up. I mean, you showing up to share the gospel, that alone is powerful, but you're doing these other personalized things that I think help people really feel like, wow, he actually really cares. He took the steps to show that he cares. And I don't know if you want to reflect on that at all, but I do think that that is one of the reasons why you do see such a positive reception to what it is that you are doing.
Yeah. And we just recently had a lady, Jenny Harrison from Dallas and Three's Company. She said, this is so intentional. You went so far as to put my name on here. What if I wouldn't have been receptive? And she was incredibly receptive. One of the sweetest ladies I've ever talked with. We talked for nearly half an hour. I won't share those details, but she said, what would you have done if I said no? You all would have just been out this Bible, out that money. And Morgan said, exactly. And Morgan's my wife. And she said, it's like salvation. It's for you. It's free. If you don't accept it, that's it. It's over. It's like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
And we, again, I've had people refuse. I've had people say, no, I'm good. And it's sad, but we have to be careful to not overstep or be pushy. I think everybody, to some degree, when they first become a Christian, when they first start to share the gospel, it's so difficult to let something go. I remember, and I can vividly see it in my mind, the first time I shared the gospel with somebody and they were like, no, I'm good. And I was obnoxious. I was probably, I want to say 12 or 13. And I was just like, no, you need this. And they're like, no, I'm good. I'm like, no, you need this. Because I'm like, this is life or death. But you don't want to you don't want to push somebody to the point where they're like, I don't want to ever talk to you again. Now, thankfully, I saw this person again and I brought that up and I just apologized to him. I said, I'm sorry. I was out of line. I'm not here to push it back on you. I just wanted to apologize. I said, I still firmly believe everything that I was saying to you, but I didn't handle that right. And it was very well received. This person was very gracious. They were like, I could tell you genuinely cared, but they were like, yeah, you don't want to push somebody away if that's what you're trying to accomplish. And through this ministry where we're putting the names in the Bible, where it's handwritten, I want it to feel very personal because it is personal. I don't want anybody, especially as the ministry's been growing, I don't want a celebrity to see the ministry and be like, I'm just a number. I'm just another Facebook post. No, it's a very intentional, I love and care about you. I would have come to this just for you. We're trying to tell as many people as we can about Jesus as quickly as we can before it's eternally too late.
Yeah. And, I want to address, obviously, a ministry like this, you have a ton of supporters. People love what you're doing. You're always going to have people, though, who don't understand it or who don't fully grasp it. What are some of the biggest things you'll often hear maybe from people in opposition or people who push back on what you're doing? And how do you respond to those things?
So I hear people say, oh, well, he's just doing this to get pictures with celebrities. To that, I tell people, yes, this ministry started as a hobby. It 1,000% did. If this wasn't ministry, I'd still go to a few local Comic Cons every year or so just for fun. It would not be nothing on this scale. Half the time I'm meeting people that I don't even know who they are. And I say this with the most loving grace. Half the time I don't care about what they've been in. I'm like, I'm just standing there and I'll hear somebody fanboying on them. And I'm just like, cool. I see you as a soul that believes this. Here in a couple weeks, I'm going to Fan Expo in Chicago. Fan wise, yeah, there's a couple people there that I'm a fan of. I enjoy their work. I wouldn't be going to Chicago. I wouldn't be waiting in all of these lines. And then more than 80% of the people I'm going to see, I'm like, I'm having to research what you've even been in so I don't seem ignorant when I talk to you. Another pushback is, oh, well, you're just shoving this down their throats. That's not the case. There have been many people who've seen me present the gospel to somebody, them refuse it, and then me and my wife were like, okay. And then we'll finish it with a normal conversation so it's not awkward, and then we'll leave. And I'm very thankful. There's this one convention here in Tennessee that a celebrity, and I won't name who it is, came to the promoter of the event and said, you've got to get rid of this guy. He is giving away a Bible and all this material to me and my friends. And the promoter goes, yeah, that's Dylan. He's a good friend of mine. Well, that's proselytizing. He's like, that's exactly what that is. Well, it needs to be stopped. And he goes, he has the free will. He's coming in here. He's paying to meet all of you guys. You have the free will to tell him, no, thanks, I'm good. He's respectful and he'll take it and leave. No, I took the gift and I just threw it away because I wanted to make a point. And he goes, okay, well then that's just ridiculous. And that's
right.
Showing,
what point did that make?
Yeah, it's like, I'm like, if I didn't know the promoter, I wouldn't have ever known that story. And again, That's another thing people will say. They're like, do you really believe these celebrities all take this material with them? I believe some of them do and some of them don't. The same way as when Ray Comfort goes out on the pier and gives out tracts and preaches to people. Some people are going to be receptive and listen. Some are going to take those tracts and throw it in the trash. We don't get so focused on who is going to throw it away. We are doing what God has told us to do, which is to go into all the world and preach the gospel. And the last thing I'll say that the pushback we've gotten is, well, why don't you care about other people? Why do you only care about celebrities? And to that, I say, you clearly have not been watching this ministry because we are very involved here in our local church. I'm a youth pastor.
You're a youth pastor. I was just going to say, you're a youth pastor.
We do tons of outreaches. And again, even when we're going to these celebrity events, it's not just for the celebrities. We're having conversations with people online. We're having conversations, and it is a very unreached dynamic of people group. I will say I've been very encouraged. The last couple of conventions I've gone to, I've seen booths set up. It's like Nerds for Jesus and stuff. I'm like, this is great because they're meeting people where they're at. Because again, we're called to be all things to all people. The message stays the same, but just the same as we have fellowship of Christian athletes, we should have some type of outreach for us nerds, us music lovers, us outcast people, so to speak. Still trying to figure out how to get into the horror community. It's like, you think this is scary? The true devil's scarier.
I love that. Well, what you're doing is so interesting. It's so unique, and it takes a lot of guts, to go and do it. And you've been doing this again, more than 2,000 celebrities. It's pretty incredible. When you sort of look at the dynamics, and I want to go back to something you said, because I think this is important, and I'm not going to name the names, and I hope you don't mind, but there was a story you just told me, and I want to go through the story you told me without naming the names of the celebrities involved. How God works. Sometimes you plant a seed and you have no idea. It could be 15 years, 10 years later that you start to hear things. And so you had gone to an event and I won't say what you did, but you went to great lengths to try to reach this particular celebrity who's in a band. And talk a little bit about that story and, maybe sort of a little bit of an update on that story.
Yes. So 2015 is when the ministry began full time. We've been doing this full time for 10 years. And I was 20 at the time. This celebrity was playing at a distillery. I'm like, well, that's fine. I'll sit in the parking lot. And
because you couldn't get in, you were too young.
Yes, they wouldn't even let you into the parking lot. Like, they had a bouncer. They're like, yeah, we can't have underage people even in the parking lot. And I was like, this is really unfortunate. So what I did was, this distillery was kind of at the bottom of this mountain. There was a restaurant on top of the mountain. So I drove around the mountain, went up to the restaurant, parked my car, walked down the mountain, and I just kind of sat in the woods and watched the tour bus. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is one of the creepiest things I think I've ever done. And then when this celebrity got off the bus, I walked out of the woods, called out to him. He looked incredibly shocked. He was very gracious. He was very kind. And the bouncer walks over. He's like, you were just wanting an autograph? I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to the show. I don't want to drink. And he goes, oh, well, I would have let you do that. I'm like, oh my goodness.
So you didn't have to hide out in the woods. You could have just gone.
I mean, I got bug bites like crazy. But again, God used this. And I've met this individual a couple of times since. And even though he's never brought it up, I'm like, he's got to remember me. Well, because of the CBN interview that I did with you, the bass player in his band reached out to me yesterday. He said, was this you? I said, it was me. And he said, that opened the door. He said, I'm a born again believer. I have a hard time bringing up sharing the gospel. But that brought up and opened the door for me to start having very intimate conversations with this celebrity.
Because that celebrity saw the video and sent it to him,
yes.
Right?
And he said, that's how I got in contact with you, because this celebrity somehow saw the CBN interview, sent it to the bass player and said, look, it's the kid from the bushes. Because he said the celebrity made the joke, man, that Bible verse going through the highways and hedges, he took it literally. And so again, though, this is a celebrity I've not really gotten much feedback from. They're a very kind celebrity, but they're very quiet. They're very to themselves. I've never gotten a letter, email, text, call, or anything like that. But here we are 10 years later, and I'm like, wow, that really started a good conversation. He sees the ministry in a positive light. And again, shows us we don't always know this side of heaven what's being done.
Yeah, no, I love that story. And it makes you, again, you're going out, you're following what God's calling you to do. You don't always know what's going to happen with that. You're obedient. You do what you're supposed to do. And a decade later, you're sitting here talking about that experience in the woods, that moment, and it made an impression. So what you're doing is making an impression. If you could look 10 years down the line, and I know these questions are always tough to answer, but what would you see the ministry looking like in 10 years?
Oh, goodness. Well, I'll say this. We've been doing this for 10 years. The ministry never got traction really until this year. I mean, I remember I've talked with you years ago, but it was a stagnant few faithful followers, so to speak, on social media. Again, I don't care about numbers like that. My only thing is, I'm like, I want this ministry to be supported. I want to be able for more doors to be opened and be able to reach more people. And already this year, where the ministry's picked up traction, we have been able to do so much more, reach out to so many more people. And so my prayer in 10 years, again, the ministry is still not fully self-sustained, so to speak. I pray that in 10 years, it'll do that. My wife has asked me the same thing. She's like, well, how long do you see us doing this ministry? I said, as long as God tells us to. I said, I do feel like it will forever be a part of our life. On what scale? I don't know if it'll be bigger. I don't know if it'll be smaller. Right now, it's very clear that God is saying this is getting bigger. Let's just keep going. Let's just keep pushing. And so in 10 years, I just pray that the biggest prayer that we will see souls change, that we will see somebody in the entertainment industry use their platform. And we've seen it some, but even on a bigger scale, somebody being like, I have accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, because that is the trickle down effect. That's the domino effect, because there are people that will listen to their favorite celebrity a lot quicker than they'll listen to you or me. And we have to use, all of us as Christians, we have to use our platforms that God has given us. And whether our platform is one person, 10 people, 100 people, or however many, that remember that one is worth it all.
Yeah. And you're out there doing this great work. We're seeing big changes in Hollywood. We're seeing a lot of people come to faith and at least be more open about their faith in Hollywood, feeling more comfortable doing that. I think people like you help make that a little bit more possible for them. And we're just seeing a little bit of a shift. And I hope we see more of that. And I would encourage people to be praying for your ministry. If people want to get more information, or they want to help. And I want people to understand when they go to your website, and I'll have you give that in a moment, and they see that they can sponsor a trip or a Bible, that these things are very expensive. You spend thousands of dollars to go to some of these conventions to get in to share the Bible and to share the gospel with these celebrities. So talk about where people can go to support what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, like, even we did a show in Knoxville last month, and that's local to me. But even without travel cost, it was over $3,000 for everybody we were able to reach. Again, I'm a youth pastor. I'm poor. I'm broke. I can't do that. And I'm so thankful for how many people have sponsored and supported this ministry to allow these doors to be open. And one of the greatest ways that people can do that is, so if you go to my website, celebrityevangelist.org, you can click on the Join the Mission tab. And on there, the first thing you'll see is sponsor a Bible. Like I said, we give out Bibles with people's names on them to pretty much everybody we go for now. And you will get a shout out on our ministry pages on social media. And right now we kind of have a waiting list. And that is, again, so crazy and encouraging. Then below that, if we're going to a convention, we put those opportunities, because just because you pay, for example, $150 to get into a convention for the weekend, that doesn't come with all the celebrities. It's an individualized thing. And for example, John Cena, it may be $250 to get to him. And then it's $100 to get to Mason Thames from How to Train Your Dragon. I'm just pulling people from Chicago that I've been looking at. So what we do is we put that person, their statement of faith, if there is a public statement of faith, and that price on Join the Mission. And what that comes with is you will receive the autograph from the meet and greet. Like, so that price, we get up to them, we're able to share the gospel with them, get an 8x10 signed. That autograph is yours if you sponsor one of those trips. And it can be personalized when available, depending on how things are rushed and whatnot. Also, we will text you, email you, contact you through social media. Hey, we're in line. We're about to meet this person. Be praying. And within that day, I'll say, hey, here's how it went. Because sometimes service is iffy in convention centers. We don't do that for people on the street. Because again, that we're not trying to make profit like that. Because, like, for example, a couple months ago, I saw Fred Armisen. He has a little comedy drum show from Saturday Night Live. I just sat in my car and waited on him to come out the tour bus, got out and saw him. That's not something that'll be on Join the Mission. This on the street stuff. This is just conventions. This is just the paid meet and greets. There's also opportunities. You can just make general donations that do go towards the travel cost, the material cost, and that kind of thing.
Well, Dylan, I so appreciate what you're doing and you sharing with us. And look, I mean, Ozzy Osbourne heard the gospel. It's incredible. Yes. And it's because of the effort that you put in through Celebrity Evangelist. I appreciate your time today.
Hey, I appreciate you having me. It's always a joy and blessing to talk to you.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more Christ-centered journalism.